This episode brought to you by How to Write Manga, your complete guide to the secrets of Japanese comic book storytelling. Available wherever fine ebooks are sold.
The world has gone insane. Cosplayers rule the conventions. Gamers dominate the tabletop and the internet. Sci-fi subjugates the movies, and fantasy rules the bookstore with an iron fist. Only one group can bring order to this unruly mob. A team of uber geeks, masters of the nerdly arts, trained for decades in the hobby shops and basements of the nation. Mobilized by the secret masters, they are the Department of Nerdly Affairs.
Hello, operatives, and welcome to the Department of Nerdly Affairs. I'm your host, Rob Patterson, here with my co-host, Don Chisholm.
Yo.
And today we're going to be talking about comedy. We're going to be yucking it up. And who better to yuck it up with than someone who actually knows a little bit about comedy, unlike Don or I, Kevin Doak. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Hello, how you doing?
So, Kevin, tell us a little bit about your background in comedy.
Okay, well, I'm just like a famous person, but nobody knows me.
Awesome.
I've been a traveling stand-up comedian for a long time, for about 6 years. I also locally write plays and put on a show, one faithfully every year is a Valentine's Day comedy show, and so we write plays, and I'm part of a theater company that takes locals and lets them write things, one of them comedies, and then we put them on for them.
Interesting.
So that people can see what they created. Now, mind you, it'd be nice when they let us workshop the piece a little bit, and those people that are willing to let us modify it a bit,
Great.
And people get to see what was in their mind's eye go on stage before them. So
yeah, and that's an incredible feeling. Yeah.
So, but there's surprisingly few of those, so we end up writing our own plays quite often and putting them on.
Okay, so you know quite a bit about comedy then. Okay.
Thanks. I like to think
well, obviously you do. I mean, and so are you actually teaching playwriting then as well?
Well, actually, the guy who runs it, Joey Olette, he teaches how to write, and he does that at the community center. So I just help him out.
Ah, okay. So most of the people that come to this, this playwriting comedy workshop, are they mostly college students, seniors? What kind of people come to participate?
From what I've seen, just quite a cross section of humanity. There's nothing like most of, or anything like anywhere from teenagers just getting started to somebody who. We had somebody who was in their 60s. They were retired and had this story in their head and wanted to see it. So complete cross section. There's no mostlies. Right.
Okay. So what actually got you into comedy then? What made you one day say, "I want to be a stand-up comedian"?
Well, I was critically shy growing up. But
I bet that's true for a lot of comedians.
But to my friends, I was a joker. Right, and so I felt comfortable joking with them. So I just eventually, wanted to fight my own shyness, and so I started with theater. So I actually have, a BA next to my name because I took theater and theater arts and stuff like that. And that was how I started. Was I wrote a comedy, and the first comedy that I wrote had 13 actors in it, and I mean actors and actresses, but we just call them actors. Anyway, it was a great experience, but wow, it was hard. So I noticed that the next play I wrote had 8 actors, then 6, then a lot with 5, then 4, then 3, and that's when I found stand-up. I just had to deal with me, just one. It was because being a director. See, a lot of times nobody wants to direct what you write. So I ended up being the director of things I write. So I was the writer and director. And being a director is a lot like herding cats, when dealing with actors. So it's so that's where my stand up started. Was like, oh, this is so much easier. I just have to
just write for
monitor
yourself.
myself, just write for myself, right? And so that's kind of where that started. And then I guess see, we have a completely communist way of working. We share the money. Like whatever pool of money we have, everyone gets a share. So
Canadians.
it's true. So after the costs, we just look at whatever money left and whatever job you took, and everybody gets an even cut. And so and that's how we deal with. And so there's nothing that says thank you like money, So that's why.
Of course.
And all the other theater companies in the area, well, not all of them, but I'd say the majority of them, they call them nonprofit, which essentially is a very small group of people get to decide, hey, who gets money, and it's never the actor. So.
Right. Well, that makes sense, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you think that doing comedy has actually helped you socially? Like, has it made you less shy?
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, in my job, I do something like authoritative, and it's more like I think of it as a role. It's just an extended role that I'm doing, kind of thing. But for sure, I think I can talk better than I used to. I think I fought my shyness. In fact, that's kind of why an epiphany happened where I went on stage and I had no nerves whatsoever. And I was like, oh my God, have I beat this thing, So, and it seemed like half my motivation was gone at that point, But when I realized,
you suddenly didn't want to do it when you realized that you weren't shy anymore?
Oh no, I still wanted to do it. It's just part of my drive went away after when there was nothing. But now I have to, when I'm away from it for a while, I miss it. I really miss it. So the miss gets so much that I go, okay, gotta go do this now. And so, but usually it's somebody calls me on the phone and goes, do you want to do this? And I was like, sure. And so for instance, I'm Santa Claus. So I do Santa Claus gigs. So somebody calls me up, you want to be Santa Claus for my company party? Yeah, sure. I own my own Santa Claus suit and stuff like that. And so I show up. And
okay.
It's a well-established role. I know how to do it, right? And so it's just fine.
So as Santa, do you try to crack a lot of jokes with the kids, make them smile?
Actually, no. The Santa Claus has to be kind of straight for them, but I crack jokes that the adults will get. Like, for instance, there was just somebody walking by, and they had a sports jersey on. It was the Leafs, right? And I went, all right, everybody's getting presents. And, the kids go, yay! And I go, except for him, he's a Leafs fan. He's used to disappointment, right? And that was kind of, and the kids don't get it, but the audience and and later on, I found out that particular guy was the guy paying me, but it didn't matter. He still did it, so that was
right. Well, he probably laughed. He knows it's true.
Yeah.
And there goes our Leafs fans in the audience. Bye, guys. Nice knowing you.
All three of them.
Yeah, all three of them, exactly.
We just have the audience. No.
You'll have no audience by the time I'm done, so.
Okay, well, we'll work on that. So, actually, we need your advice then, Kevin. What's the secret to doing successful comedy? What are the key elements to doing comedy?
I like how you said successful instead of good. You almost said good.
Right. Well, when I find out successful, I'll let you know. But as far as good goes, it was okay. In my job, I guard and look after famous people. One of the people that I talked to was Don Rickles, and he gave me the best advice. All right.
Right.
And I'm dropping a name, right?
Go right ahead.
All right.
You can do that.
He was great. He was this man was always on stage. He even in front of me. And and so I just said, in the middle of laughing, I said, "Look, I'm going out. I'm doing comedy, do you have any advice? And he goes, yeah, I got two pieces of advice for you.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, when you go on stage, do it for you. Don't try to appease the audience. Do it because you think it's funny, right? Because you believe it's funny. And I went, oh, okay. And then he goes, second piece of advice, don't steal any of my shit. And so...
Yeah, that sounds like Don Rickles, all right.
But it's great advice. And so, and after that, I did exactly that. I went on stage because I had a vision, because I wanted to take the audience on a ride. And the audience, I found it better when the audience didn't want to go, but I took them by the hand anyway. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do it. So, because I was always trying to appease the audience, trying to figure out what they think is funny. No,
right.
It's do it because you think it's funny. Do it because, and it'll come through. And which is great because the best way to say it is that in my head, I'm very wrong. Like the worst possible thing comes to my brain. And even I go, oh, I can't say that, right? And then I tone it down. Mm-hmm. Oh, but I can say this. And so I tone it down to a level that, but... the only way I can say it is that I'm marinated in wrong sauce, and I just take the audience where they don't want to go, and I let them connect the joke a little bit, so that and in their head they're like, no, he's not going to say that, and then I say it, for the timing part, just as it's dawning on them. So and so that's where the kick comes for me, is doing stuff like that. So making the audience feel. So that's actually why doing this, what we're doing right now, having this recorded is kind of weird and difficult for me, because I find that we tried shooting things live, and it's I don't work live, or I don't work recorded. I work better live when I can feel the audience, cringe and all that stuff.
Don't worry, we're cringing, man. We're cringing.
One thing you've brought up that I think is interesting, because we've talked to people who do writing and who do different kinds like art, and it's interesting that your take is almost the opposite of theirs. That they mention that there's a lot of people who get into like writing and such, especially writing, that when they do it, it's like the bucket list thing, like you had mentioned with the theater troupe, and a lot of these guys say that it gets a lot of people in that probably shouldn't be doing this. But it's interesting how you've worked with, and I know a little bit about some of the stuff you've done, that you've worked with people who are doing that, but do produce something more feasible, something that the audience appreciates more than some kind of like weird My Little Pony fanfic that probably should never have happened. And I'm wondering, do you think that goes with what you're saying? You work better live because you can feel the audience, and one of the things that does is edit out the people who shouldn't be doing this in a hurry because the audience throws things at them?
Okay. There's we've had people like that where we've tried to workshop some of their things, and we just went, wow, it'd be better if you started from scratch, kind of thing, right? And so that's the problem, is that it's about honesty, kind of thing, when we do things like that. But one of my favorite things we do is this Valentine's Day show, and this Valentine's Day show is a bunch of skits, and the skits have to be only 2 pages in length. And that helps a lot too, because the laughs per minute is what we like. So if you read the entire page and it was just a setup for the final joke or something like that, we were like, we need to change this because you didn't do any laughs per minute on your first page. And so what we do is that these are between 2 and 7 minute performances on stage. And when we get the writers to just think in that small context, it's easier. It's easier also to find what they were going for, and
Right.
on a sketch comedy kind of a thing. And so we've I don't know, it's great when we can, I guess, find the humor in it sometimes. And so we've it's easier to get the people on board your train of thinking with sketch comedy, because you're just dealing with something that's 7 minutes as opposed to an entire play.
Right. No, that makes sense. So what is the key to writing comedy then? Like, for sketch comedy, what are the what's the advice you give new sketch comedy writers? Because I'm sure that can apply to other types of writers as well.
Okay. Well, the people break themselves apart trying to figure out what is funny, and a lot of comedians do that. And the point is what makes you laugh, Right. And so through my day, something will happen that's hilarious, and I'll go, "Damn, that's funny," and then I'll take what actually made me laugh about that situation and store it, kind of thing. And so the idea is that we have met some strange people where, we stare them straight in the face and went, "That's not funny." That's actually terrible. Like,
right.
If you think that's funny, you should probably get some help. But and then all of a sudden we'll be sitting around, we're like, "But if you add this, it makes it funny," And so
Right.
and we were like, "Yeah, that's strange." And so we do it. So we give them their vision, but we just added something that takes out the terrible.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you try to mostly draw from like just real life funny situations.
Yeah, for sure. And it helps that, like, like I said, I'm marinated in wrong sauce, and the stuff that just hits my head, like I'll be in it. It's that fart in church kind of thing where the most serious things set my mind going, and I just start laughing, and I have to go, don't ask me what's funny. Don't ask me what I'm laughing at. I just have to walk out the door right now. Yeah, exactly. So, let's put it this way: I can't go to my wife's church anymore. I just can't. I can't go there. So.
They have your picture up on the door, is it? Or?
Something like that. I walk out laughing too much. I want to say things, but it's not really the church is not really something that's participatory, So,
especially during funerals.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at that point, I wish I was a puppeteer and I could throw my voice, but.
Well, that's it.
That's an option.
Yeah, that's interesting too. Like, how do you gauge what's appropriate for one audience and not another?
Okay, see, now that's the problem. I'm the worst person probably for you to interview on that particular subject, because there was one time I was doing an anti-cancer benefit, and that behind me was this anti-cancer. That's what was emblazoned behind me as I'm up in the mic. And I just had to make a comment that I was like, is there ever a pro-cancer, one of these benefits? What would that ad be? Cancer, it grows on you, right?
Oh.
And right. And the next year, they contacted our group and said, "Yeah, we'd like you back. That was great, but not that dope guy. We'd like him to stay home." And so I was like, just from that one joke, oh my God. So,
right.
And I got mixed reviews, because I could tell, I guess the people who were cancer survivors were laughing, but I guess the people who were with the cancer survivors, so I do get a lot of ha 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 boo, but that's what actually makes me so gives me the joy. And I'll say things that make people laugh and then make people feel terrible about laughing. That's my kick. Right. So I do get the ha 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 ooh, and then they usually laugh again because they all did the exact same thing. That's my favorite.
So basically, use comedy for evil.
Yes, I do.
For evil purposes. That's awesome.
That's true. Well, that's That's not completely true, because you see, in my head, I have a higher view, which is that if I make fun of things that are sacred, then no one's going to take that sacred thing and come and kill me because of it. You know, if I make light of race, if I make light of religion, if I make light of, you know, things that people, you know, nationalhood or whatever they call it, patriotism, then people are less likely to come kill me because I, you know, didn't have a flag on my lapel or something like that in the future, or something like that. So the idea is that
hold on. So, sorry to interrupt here for a second, but do you think, this goes back to another idea though, do you think that the current era of, we'll call it political correctness, and of course things like the certain religions and such, have put a damper on comedy? Like I've been hearing that comedians now, for example, stay away from college campuses. They're almost terrified to go on to them these days.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, very much. In fact, I once stated that the comedy club was the last bastion of free speech, because I can say anything. Like there was one, I've got different sets that I use, and in one set I make fun of all races, like every single one of them. You know, I'm pretty anal about making fun of them all, and trying not to miss one, of course. So yeah, that was what I feel that like Yuck Yucks was what I was on stage at, and I could do these things and say these things, and it would get a mild reaction, but I couldn't imagine doing it someplace like a college campus, because political correctness stops that. And I feel that political correctness has maybe a place in the workplace, but not on stage, because like I said, if they take things that are sacred, it elevates them. Right. But I'm under the idea that if nothing's sacred, then everything is. You know, so I like to make fun of everything that people inflate.
Oh, okay.
To, you know, so that's kind of my concept when I go up, is that nothing's sacred. So that's why I usually, the plays that I write or the stand-up that I do, I like to also have a bit of, you know, think in there to give a counterpoint or something that is not brought up, kind of thing. And that's kind of comedy to me.
Okay, because I can see that. I'm thinking, if you go to a comedy club, people are expecting something a lot worse than, say, somebody speaking at like a university or a business dinner or something.
Yes.
And we've talked about before here how when you're producing any kind of work of art, audience expectation plays a part in that, either in what you produce yourself, depending how close you are to the audience, or how far you get, depending on what the audience expects from whatever the kind of thing you make is.
Oh yeah.
So
that's very true.
Now, do you think when you do comedy, does that say and you're dealing with controversial subjects, does comedy help make it palatable, or do you think sometimes doing it as comedy takes away from the issue?
No, I think comedy is lube. Essentially, okay. it gets by them easier than any other kind of thing. If I were to do a satire kind of thing, it would be, that's very thought provoking or whatever. But but humor gets by a lot of the blockades that people put up. Oh, this person's this, I can ignore them, right?
Right.
But comedy tends to slip through.
Okay.
Easier. Get by some of their defenses, some of their, plug their ears and I don't want to hear this opposed point of view,
right?
Kind of thing.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. I mean, especially nowadays, where you see a lot of any kind of quote unquote discussion, it's usually very stratified right from the get go.
Yeah. But well, I know you don't use Facebook, but there's a lot of Facebook things that use comedy,
right,
rather than like, for instance, if in the political views right now, they use comedy more often than they use giving the issues or their particular swing on the issues. So
right.
I noticed that, but I can appreciate either side when they give good humor. Like, I even have to go, oh, sometimes that's really good. It's not my point of view, but hey, that was good, kind of thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Do you think maybe in some ways, though, that's bad because you get people too used to palatable versions of important issues?
No, I think it's amazing. Like, one of my favorite TV shows is The Daily Show. And, I mean, it was Jon Stewart now, it's Trevor Noah now, or they're both on right now at this particular time. But they use comedy to give to actually report on the news. And as far as I'm concerned, that's amazing, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to blankly saying that this happened, they actually call out the politician and show, when they say, I've never said this, and they go, well, let's just go back a week, and there he is saying that,
Right.
The news actually doesn't do that, but this comedy show actually reports on the news. And so I was, I give props to them, and I'd love to do stuff like that, but I tend to stay away from Uber politics and stuff like that. But
okay, so you like to insult people on a personal level?
Yeah, that's true. And there's the type of comedian that can reach into the audience and go, hey, you, what do you do? Kind of thing.
Right.
And I have to admit, I'm not too good at that. Like, those are definitely hit or misses for me.
Okay.
But if something comes up, like a woman's cackling, like a chicken kind of thing, and I mentioned, oh my God, I can go under there and get eggs later. Let's go, keep going, stuff like that. It's fine. Like, I can make comments under the audience, but right. Comedians that can just reach out to the audience and just make fun of them, I just get blown away by it, because if the people that don't have a set at all,
right,
and their set is just reach out in the audience and insult them, I have to go, wow, because that's a level of comfort that I'm not amazing with, just yet. I can dip, but I can't swim like they do.
Maybe just.
But I also find that I actually find that insulting the audience tends to alienate you in the audience. I like to take the audience on a weird tour. I've got a roller coaster for you to be on, and I want to take you on it.
So, are you mostly a storyteller then when you do your routine? Like, is that what you do? You like to tell personal stories?
Oh, I can do that. I like to switch up. If I do it all, I found when I did all stories, it tended to drag a little bit. But no, it definitely is. It's you are a storyteller up on stage,
right?
To do stand up, and so, for instance, I have a stand up thing that actually became like me telling a story. Actually, I brought it up on stage and told the story of me doing stand up, and it was when I got a letter from I found a pamphlet at Yuck Yucks, and it was a comedy competition in Detroit, and it was bet comedy competition, and I went over there, and I went to like this really seedy kind of bar, and I go down, and it wasn't until I went down the actual stairs and saw that I was the only white guy that it dawned on me that bet comedy competition was BET comedy competition, Black Entertainment Television, and I sat there, closed my eyes, and shook it, and I went up to the lady at the desk, and she goes, "You're Doak, aren't you?" And I went, "Yeah." She goes, "You sounded white over the phone." And I went, "Yeah." And I went, "Look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by it. It just never dawned on me. You can just cross my name off. I'm sorry." And I was going to walk away, and she went, "Do you want to go on?" And I went, "I can do that?" And she went, "It's your funeral, hon." And so I went, okay, if I leave, I'm an idiot. But if I go on stage, though, I'm a brave idiot. So I actually went on stage.
That's awesome.
And you have to understand that the place has black lights, and I glow in the dark. And I was thinking, I just had to have shaved my head, didn't I? Because I'm a big bald guy, right? And so, but I'm here in Detroit. All right, why not? And so I went up and started talking, and the audience ignores you, like if you do a set. So they're just talking amongst themselves, and I'm just like, wow, I can't get their attention. And then one lady right in front starts yelling, "Get on the stage!" Right? So I stop everything, look at her, and go, "Ma'am, there's a couple right beside you, and then there's a couple on the other side of you. You're here all alone." She goes, "So?" I went, "You ever think about trying a white guy?" Dead silence. Oh. Dead silence, like you couldn't hear anything but the sound of pistol safeties being placed on the off position, right? It was quiet, and I went, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I better make it good. And so I ended up just making fun of myself, and then they went, "Okay, we'll let him live," and they just went back to talking, right? And I was like, and so I tried to do my set again. I was like, no. And so I just said, all right, hey, look at the TV back there. I can tell what sport it is. I can't read any of the writing, but I can see the numbers. And just by the numbers, I can tell what sport it is. For instance, the first sport was 0 to 1. What sport is that? Soccer. I was like, all right. The next score was 114 to 112. What sport is that? Right? Basketball, right? And then I went, now think about that. And I made about the size of a basketball hoop. In basketball, the net's this big. In soccer, the net is from way the hell over here to way the piss over here. Right? It's huge, but in the huge net, but only one goal. And they say goal for 5 minutes. So you might as well enjoy it, right?
Right.
Which shows me that no matter what they're up against, black guys score either than white guys. So then after that, I kind of won them over, right?
Right.
Because they were like, that was pretty good, and then after I won them over, they started listening to my set, right? So
right.
So that, but I didn't win the comedy competition or anything like that,
right?
Because the man was keeping me down, right?
Right. Exactly.
But the point is that became a story that I end up telling the audiences in the future.
Right. Right. Definitely. Now, question: is there actually a rhythm to sets? Like, is there a very clear rhythm that you're going for?
No. I mean, I can see the rhythm when other comedians do it. Or maybe I just can't see mine. I'm not sure. But I can, there's the setup and then the kill, and I can, when other comedians do it, I can kind of go, okay, they're following the formula. But I don't know if I have one, or I don't recognize when I do it. Because I just do it because I think the story's funny, or I think the comment is funny.
Right. So you just kind of, you're almost improvising it then. You got a bunch of material, and then you just kind of go out and you just go with what works for that situation?
Oh, yeah. Well, I should probably mention that I was part of a traveling improv group as well.
Okay.
For, again, about 6 or 7 years. And, yeah, that helped a lot.
Yes. I believe it. So, which do you prefer then, sketch comedy or improv comedy?
Okay. Well, the thing is that I've watched improv comedy be entertaining. Like it gives, it's feast or famine. You can either laugh your ass off at it, or that's mildly amusing kind of thing with improv, but that's the nature of improv.
Right.
With sketch comedy, you can hone it a little better. You can look at the script and add laughs per minute. You can make the, say it exactly perfectly, and of course it's well rehearsed. And the key thing for any good director is making sure that it doesn't look rehearsed. So.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay, so now
So
I'm
I think
thinking.
of that.
Oh,
I was just going to say, in answer to your question, I find sketch comedy better, and because you can be sure that there's more laughs per minute. It's tight. I've seen people, us get a topic, and nobody in the row has anything. We just kind of look at the audience. Sorry, So.
Wow. So, because I know you've done some like other writing, and you do sketches and plays and such. I was gonna say, does comedy work differently for different genres?
We've done a little. We've done courtroom dramas, right? These little.
Okay.
They're improv, and we take the audience, and they become the people that we draw from to go on, like it's a court. Sometimes I'm the judge, sometimes I'm the bailiff, or sometimes I'm the accused, for instance. Mm-hmm. And the lawyers will reach out in the audience and grab somebody, and you're the coroner for Windsor. How long have you been the coroner? And they'll say a decade. Oh, well, on August 7th last year, you found this, and how did the person die? And whatever they say, that's how. Maybe it was me that killed this person, right? And so, and we try to find the funny in it. And so, I guess different things have different structures, I suppose, for genres. But the genre is just the vehicle. And I don't know. It should be. I guess that's the structure that you're dealing with. Either because, for instance, when you go to a comedy club, you're expecting the guy to be on stage, right? If he's running around the audience, it's not really happening. You're supposed different. To be on stage, kind of thing. But if I'm doing one seat is always for the actor kind of thing, we can sit down and talk to the audience, each table, for instance, and just be a little private comedian. So, I mean, structure is just the vehicle that we deliver the show with. Okay. So I guess the genre matters to the audience.
Right.
So that would mean that comedy can actually be worked into almost any genre.
I could say, yeah, for sure.
Because the genre is separate. Although the type of comedy, of course, that you do with a genre is going to vary depending on what the genre is and what tone you want to achieve.
Yeah. We even toyed with the idea of making having a fake wake where you get to, come and talk to the, and you get to drink socially, and there's a podium, and you go over and you talk to about the deceased and whoever they might be, right? And maybe it's the CEO, the boss of the company or something like that. Right. And we toyed with that idea. We thought there was too many pitfalls, so we decided not to go with that particular genre.
Right. I can see that. Although, wouldn't that work better if you made it a wedding instead? It's an open mic at somebody's wedding.
It's true, but there was somebody who copyrighted doing that for some reason. So, and they got the full copyright to do that, and we tried it, and they threatened us, so we went, okay, we won't do that. So.
That's kind of...
You're kidding. I thought you couldn't copyright comedy routines.
Well, it was the idea. It was they thought they could, but we just didn't want to have to deal with it, so we just dropped the idea of having a wedding. But it was something like My Big Fat Wedding, or my or no, Tony and Tina is what it was called. It's a established play, but the audience goes around and sits at different tables and talks about, So, yeah, that's what it's called.
It talks about the couple and everything, who are, of course, complete strangers, and they're all making it up, right? Yeah.
It was Tony and Tina's wedding. That's what it was. That talked to us about not doing that. And the makers of it, because apparently they have connections here in Ontario somehow.
Right. Okay. They know a few guys. Okay.
I guess.
Tony and Tina.
Which I found it was funny because it was, Italian based.
Yeah. Yep. No, I can completely see that.
That is kind of weird. You probably, I think you could fight it, but yeah, you'd never know
the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's been weird stuff like that. I know one of the biggest copyright jokes that went around for a long time was when TSR did the Marvel role-playing game. They copyrighted Nazi.
Wow, you can do that?
Well, not really. They tried.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it was just whoever did, because it had the longest indicia for anything ever. It's like almost a whole page, and I think they just had somebody working staff. Okay, find every like specific name in all of this product, and then just copyright it all. So they did.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that was Marvel's corporate days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
don't they own superpower or something like that?
Superhero.
Yeah.
They do.
Superhero?
Actually. It's a joint thing with DC Comics, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Marvel can't say superhero?
No, they both can, but nobody else can.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Technically, they're not supposed to be able to, although I think it's one of those things where I don't think they really try to preserve it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've seen independent comics using superhero lots, and they don't really, no one challenges them on that I can tell anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe they have to pay a royalty. Maybe you have to pay them, a dime every time they use it.
Could be.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe something like that. Actually, okay, let's get a little more nerdy here for a second then. So recently we had, Batman versus Superman come out, or Batman v Superman, sorry. And of course, people's main complaint was, oh my God, this thing is so horrible, it's dark, it's serious, etc. Right. And then we had a movie, called Civil War, Captain America Civil War, come out, and a lot of the same ideas and themes, except that everyone loved it because there was comedy in it.
I see that.
So,
I find Marvel usually has comedy in it, and DC is DC is story driven,
right?
And this, I'm workshopping Marvel and DC. Can you believe it? Anyway,
go ahead.
DC is story driven. It's about the story.
Right.
It's about getting all the plots and intricacies down, and of course, maybe having a fight scene. But Marvel is about characters, and so characters, aren't perfect all the time. Like you'll never see Batman land and slip on a banana, right? Because he's Batman, right? But in Thor, he got backed over by a car, right? And which is human, kind of thing. So I kind of like Marvel for their taking a superhero, a god, for instance, and making him human, making him connectable, making him fallible. But DC, it's not about that. It's not about making them more human. It's about about their story. About in DC, everybody's always better than human. Even Batman, who's trying to be better than human and not have any flaws and whatever.
Right. Well, basically, the DC characters are gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what they are. They're gods living among humans.
Yes.
And so they're supposed to be infallible and such. But why is it then that people are drawn more to the Marvel movies? Why do they want that humor in their superhero movies, that it seems? I mean, obviously not always. The Dark Knight trilogy by Nolan there, made $1 gazillion. That is true. But that's Batman.
Right. Well, the sad truth, people get attracted to Superman and Batman or things and DC because of a fantasy. Boy, wouldn't it be nice to be that,
Right.
And it's usually something very, deficient in themselves that they want to be Superman, to be honest, right?
Right, yeah.
Marvel is something where you show up and you want to be more human. You want to laugh at yourself. You want to enjoy this, the story, enjoy the characters, and the characters are more alive. Like, for instance, who would you rather have over for dinner, Batman or Thor? For instance, even
Depends how the
hell.
power's working or not.
Yeah, even I don't know, one of the smaller ones, Hawkeye. Hawkeye'd be more entertaining to talk to than Batman. Superman. And so you'd look at Superman and go, he'd be eating or something, and you'd go, do a trick, because he'd be boring, right? And so the others are more human,
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So we connect more with the Marvel characters because they're more human, they're more relatable, and the comedy is just an outgrowth of that.
Yes. Yeah.
Makes sense.
There was a philosopher, I can't remember the name of, who said something to the effect of, only humans can be funny because only humans have dignity.
No, I've got a cat. That's completely wrong.
Okay. Is that dignity or superiority?
Yeah. Well, I watched the cat walk away going, oh, man, he's watching me, son of a bitch, he caught that. So no, I think.
Right.
Yep. He's going to be laughing for hours, the bastard.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. It's dogs that are not self-aware.
Yeah.
But cats definitely are. I agree.
So that is interesting. I can totally see your point with the Batman thing, because he'd be a nightmare at dinner. Where's the gravy? Where's the gravy? Yeah. It's right there, man. Just don't hit me again.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, next Thanksgiving we'll go do it with your family. Oh, wait, never mind.
Oh. Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
But
Christmas at Batman.
Yep.
But that does make sense too, because I know back in the day the idea of the Marvel characters was supposed to be heroes with problems. Mm-hmm. And I do think that humanizes them. And even I'm thinking, based on what you were saying, that idea that Marvel stuff has more comedy comes out of that because the characters have these problems. And it's the weird little foibles, like you were saying at the beginning of the interview, that you look for those weird little things that happen in life, and that's where comedy comes from.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you're Batman, you don't have any weird little things. It's either the Joker gassing the entire city, or that's it. It's Batman never has to find out which neighbor's stealing his paper, kind of thing.
Yeah. On the other hand, the Batman has endured because of things like the Joker.
Yeah.
Where Batman's the ultimate straight man. So if it's the odd couple, he's the uptight one, and the other guy is Oscar, right? And so it's you get the humor from the other side, but not from the actual character. So it's I'll drop my favorite, which is Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd is kind of Batman-like in that he's called Old Stoneface because he doesn't, he doesn't have any reaction, and he's pretty much a force of nature. But you get the comedy from the villain that is so whacked out that that's the interesting part for me is the villain, how he catches them, and what how the extent that it goes to, and of course. Dredd's willing to go to any extent to catch the villain. So it's a battle of wills almost, and that's the entertainment for me with that particular comic.
Okay, because I'm thinking. Oh, go ahead.
I was done.
Oh, okay. Because I'm wondering now that what you're saying, because the Batman v Superman movie, I don't know what the deal with Lex Luthor was. But I'm thinking now, do you think they tried to Joker him up just because the other two were played so straight?
Oh, yeah, right at the end, I could say that, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Lex Luthor is usually just a douchebag, and in that, he was like, what's wrong with, get that kid some help.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny, actually, how that whenever they make Superman live-action movies, and they have Luthor, they try to comedy him up.
True.
They actually try to turn him into a joke. Whereas in every other comic or animated film or whatever, he's 100% deadly serious.
Right.
Maybe he has a dark sense of humor, but he's 100% serious. But for some reason, maybe thanks to Gene Hackman's original portrayal in Superman the movie, they feel compelled to make Luthor almost a comic character.
Huh.
in the funny sense, not the comic book sense.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that was the reason why they added Richard Pryor to the second one or third one. I lost track, but
it's the third one, yeah.
Because they wanted an actual, they needed more comedy in it.
Right.
So why would you pick a comedian to be, one of the actors?
That's a fairly good point. Actually, I guess the idea is, again, Superman as the straight man, just like Batman. So you want someone who plays off of him.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, Superman's cast really doesn't have, Lois is sarcastic. Jimmy Olsen, depending on which version, is usually like, gee whiz, although in Superman v Batman, they just killed him off anyway. Perry White is definitely not, there's none of his supporting cast are actually funny.
That's true.
His villain casts aren't very funny either. Everything is very serious for the most part. I guess there are a few exceptions. You get like Toyman, or some people like that, but very few. I mean, you don't see Metallo, the guy with the kryptonite heart, like cracking jokes as he's taking Superman down. Usually, anyway.
True. Well, they do, but they're the action movie witty line kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's funny though that they do feel that need to try to comedy Superman up, but they didn't do it, of course, in Man of Steel, and everyone hated it.
Yeah.
There we go. That kind of proves their point. So, so now you know.
Well, Man of Steel had other problems.
Yeah.
Hey, you mean you didn't want to see Superman moping from dead-end job to dead-end job?
No, I guess they were trying to make him more human, but that's about it. Yeah.
Because that's interesting too. Because I don't know. I guess it's that thin line for relatability that if you make them too much like the audience, it turns off the audience. Because I don't need to be reminded that I work a horrible dead end job every day.
Right.
I want to see him hit something.
Yeah, but let's talk about the big one, which was the Deadpool one.
Okay.
Deadpool, it's Marvel. No one believed in it, really. They talk about that in Honest Trailer. Hell, they talk about it in the movie that no one believed in it, right? And and the idea is that because nobody could take him seriously because he was such a strange character. But anybody who had played the video game for Deadpool, I watched it being played, and it's one of the most hilarious video games to watch because you get commentary through the should I kill myself and not have to listen to cable talk, yes or no, and you get the and so you blow your brains out, and then you wake up and cable stuck a note to you, right? And so because you didn't want to hear him drone on, because in that he was the straight man, and Deadpool couldn't deal with it anyway. But the point is that it drew in a lot more money than they expected, and I think it blew the hell out of the Batman Superman team up there. As far as that goes, so I think people are more attracted to comedy, right? So, and if you have comedy action, it's even better. And so I find that, don't get me wrong, seriousness has its advantages sometimes, but I would say people want to laugh. They want they want Deadpool and things like that. They want balance. Sorry, I would argue they want balance. I mean,
you can't always make them laugh.
Oh, for sure. What if they came up with another Jackass? I'm sure it would make money, but they don't want just that. They'd like something with some depth and some, if you can sneak in, everything, like a story, thought, a message, or real drama in with comedy, it's even better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, take a look at MASH, for example, which was perhaps one of the finest TV programs ever. And it technically is a comedy, but does such a good job of mixing in the serious stuff with the comedy. In fact, the comedy makes you love the characters, and it makes the serious stuff that much more powerful when the serious stuff happens.
For sure. I agree. I tried to the first play that I wrote, I was trying to take MASH as a template, and not have it be about one character. But the first play I wrote was about an insane asylum, and again, it has 13 characters, and the idea was that in this, I even worked it out that I think everybody had the exact same amount of lines, so that there wasn't, when you went with who's your favorite character, and you're like, everybody had a different one, kind of thing, and I like that, because in MASH, Alan Alda right off the bat said, "Look, I'm getting too much time on. I'd like to spread this out and have every character be, a shine," and so and I think that's what made it endure, was every character was real, every character had a laugh, every character told the joke, kind of thing, but in their own way.
Yeah.
So
they all had their chance to shine.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting too, going back to the superhero idea, because I know in the 80s the team superhero became like super popular.
What, like Teen Titan?
Yeah, like you had or the X-Men, or every superhero group was a super team instead of a character, and I think it was because of that idea. You could have the funny guy, the angry guy, the philosophical guy, the inevitable female, because there's always like just one.
Right.
But then when you got to the 90s, all the teams became, there's the serious guy, and then Wolverine.
Yeah.
Nimbo. Don't forget the Nimbo.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. Team marketing. When marketing takes over, art suffers, and so that's why I like Don Rickles' advice. Do it for you. Don't do it for the audience. And marketing people are all about the audience. And when marketing people take over, movies, whatever, it sucks. It sucks on ice. It's huge, and no one really wants to see that. It's not a keeper. It's not, it's not a real moneymaker, because you're trying to pander to what they feel the audience wants. And you've got to try to do, what I do with just basic stand-up. Take the audience on a purposeful mission. Have a message, have something that you want to tell. But if you, I don't know, take a movie and skateboards are cool, there's going to be skateboards in this movie, it takes away from everything else.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too, because I'm thinking, since we cover a lot of nerdly topics in the show, when you look at the nerdly arts, anytime anybody's tried to do something that was essentially just a straight up comedy, it never goes over. But there's a lot of people who have done things that are very funny, but they always have almost like an equal share of like drama to the funny parts.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm thinking
Mystery Men is something that's right there. Now, it's under the comedy section. It's a superhero movie, right? But there's, it makes fun of itself too. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a keeper. Like, I could put on Mystery Men right now and really enjoy it. You know what I mean? And, even the stupid lines like I shovel well. You know what I mean? And and so and in it makes fun of what you were talking about before, which was that they have the archetype spectrum, which is the angry guy. But they did a great job of making fun of himself in it, right? Where he loses his angry. Where I don't want to be the angry guy now. It's a label that I don't want anymore. And of course there's the woman in it, but I thought she was the best of the whole bunch.
The bowler.
Yeah, but she was also a comedian, right?
Right.
And so, and of course, just a ridiculous storyline. And, but that's, again, something that it came out of nowhere. the marketing people did not ruin it.
Right.
But if they came out with 2, they might,
Yeah.
Probably.
Because
Well, there'd be that. There would be that pressure to succeed.
yeah.
And that
Yeah.
pressure to succeed would actually end up kind of destroying it sometimes, or destroying the purity that the first one had.
Yeah.
If you tried to make it a game.
Yeah, so now you know. Don Rickles was right, because do it for you.
Yes.
Do it for the art. Do it because you think it's funny. Don't do it to make the audience happy. So yeah, so Don Rickles is a genius as far as I'm concerned.
Because that's Mystery Men does something else too that I've noticed. A lot of things I've enjoyed. I don't know what you'd call the style, but it's funny. But if you take the context of that setting, it's a world where there's a proliferation of superheroes and villains and such.
Yeah.
It's not a comedy, because that's exactly the kind of things that would happen in that world. Like, not everybody's going to be Batman.
That's
Right.
true.
There's going to be guys who suck. A movie that I think of like that too is Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
And it's brilliant because if zombies attacked, what those characters do is exactly what all of us would do. Like we wouldn't think, we have to go to the gun store, we need a fort. No, we'd be thinking, I need a drink. Where's mom? Like that.
Right.
And it's funny, but it's not exactly, I don't consider it comedy because it's not written to be funny exactly.
Right.
It's just, here's what would really happen, and the inherent ridiculousness of what we would naturally do in that situation carries the entertainment through.
Right.
Yeah.
It provides the comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if you're going with popular media right now, but like for instance, The Walking Dead is a series that's going on right now, right?
Yep.
And I find that I wish that they'd add a little more humor to it.
Mm-hmm.
That because the only thing I find unrealistic about it is that people aren't resorting to humor more often.
Yeah.
It's dark and dark and dark, and in that much darkness, it's a human reaction to make light of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I find that it misses it. It does. It lacks it. But I find with Game of Thrones that Tyrion, it helps me deal with. I like it more because it's super dark too, but he adds entertaining commentary, and that's what I kind of wish there was in all these dark stories. I wish there was more humanness in it, because with that much terrible, there should be something that human nature does and takes it away. And I know it's something small. It was I think it was Enemy at the Gate or something like that, and it showed this wartime thing. But and as they're walking through, you can see this group of people, and they're lighting each other's farts, right? During war. And it was just something very small, but I was like, and it made me laugh so hard because but in a time of struggle or terribleness, people do stupid things just to lessen the tension,
Yeah.
And so I find that, I don't know, that sometimes it misses that, that stories sometimes miss that. And I appreciate when they do add, comedy in that sense, even if it's just for a one shot, something funny that they did. Just when it's absent, I find that it lacks humanness, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's, again, it's that idea that most people in real life, like, we're not superheroes. We're not, like, the action star that, confronted with an extraordinary situation, the human brain tends to try to reestablish normality. And, and we do that by, it's the small things. It's the little thing. Like, I know for myself, way back in the day, one of the things that used to make me feel all leveled off was shaving. Because I do that every day. So if I wake up and I'm having a bad day and while you're having your shave, you can relax, put things in perspective, but it's doing something normal. So yeah, if zombies,
advice from George Burns in Oh God, I think that was his advice. Yeah, if the main character meets God, and George Burns is there and goes, "Shave while I'm talking to you. Doing something normal helps." And so he shaves while talking to God. So, sorry, harking back to a movie nobody's heard of.
Well, that was a very famous movie, Once Upon a Time. If you're old like we are, that's a famous movie.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, true.
But yeah, that's I can see that too, because that's I think part of it to get to the nuts and bolts of it of writing, if you've got a character that never unwinds, then they're not a realistic character. Like, everybody's got something they do for fun.
True.
Well, and that's why I like, as opposed to like Batman, I like Judge Dredd, because Judge Dredd makes fun of that aspect.
Yeah.
Where he finally he's in a bath and he still has his helmet on.
Yeah.
Right.
And you see him trying to relax in the bathtub, and that's the funniest thing ever, because he's Judge Dredd, which is, he's essentially more Batman than Batman too. If you want, he shits diamonds because he's so uptight, kind of thing. But
right.
But yeah, I find that, but I would put Dredd in the comedy section, because he's the uber uptight next to like total chaos of his city, But
right.
They've done that a few times. Where I think it was called Dredd's Day Off, which is hilarious, because Dredd, they realized that he's been working for 10 years and never taken a day off, and so stuff like that.
They used to write stuff like that every now and then for Batman, though.
Right.
One of the best Batman things ever was when they did the animated series in the 90s. It was the Christmas episode.
I never caught that one.
Christmas with the Joker?
Yeah, it was the one, because it starts with Robin's telling him to he's got to relax. He's like, I can never relax. He's like, okay, well, watch a movie. Look, they're showing It's a Wonderful Life. Never heard of it. What do you mean you never heard of It's a Wonderful Life? What's it about? It's a movie about how much of a difference one man can make in the world. Sounds stupid. Seeing that,
yeah,
and it's
funny.
And it does.
That is pretty funny.
And it acknowledges that, and it makes it contrast the fact that he is uptight. We're supposed to take him as uptight, and it fleshes things out more, because it shows that the rest of the world works more like what we're used to, that not everybody is him.
Right.
Like the
sorry, you're going to continue.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to change the subject.
That's okay.
In one of the DC things is one of their biggest things, which was Crisis on Infinite Earth, right? It was very, it was multiple universes, multiple Earths, very high concept, all and everybody, everybody was totally uptight, because it's all the superheroes, right, trying to do stuff.
Right.
And so it was a bunch of straight men, but they had one comedy guy in the entire thing. And it was when they flew back to try to find Earth Prime or something like that. They couldn't find it or something like that. And they were like, and they show, well, where'd it go? And the one comedy guy checks his pockets. I don't have it, man. And it was something very small, but it was great, because it, it needed to be there at that time, because but DC tends to dip into comedy, like it's time to touch comedy, and I think they're just starting to realize that now with the Suicide Squad that's coming out, which is that Marvel. That's the difference. Marvel's knocking the shit out of them, because their heroes are flawed, and now you don't get more flawed than the villains, right? So it's a story about the villains being heroes. So
but they also did the trailer for the Justice League movie, where it's like there's Aquaman and he's all super uptight, and you're like, really, Aquaman? Aquaman's going to get in my face. Really? He talks to fish.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And then you feel bad. Yeah, because you feel bad because when they did the Brave and the Bold cartoon, oh man, that Aquaman, I would watch that movie. If you put the outrageous Aquaman in a film, I would be like, yeah, okay, this has some entertainment value to it.
Right. Instead, they went with Namor.
Yeah, and that's the problem is it all starts bleeding together because they do that.
Yeah, but you have to understand that that's a marketing thing, getting him to because hell, he's Ronin, he's Conan,
Yeah.
And I think my wife wants to go see it just because like the Aquaman's in it, so.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So essentially, well, sex sells. Wow, so and
surprise.
So it's going to take away from the story to get him. I mean, he might be an amazing actor in it, but I mean, their reasoning is counterproductive to making it endure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, just to switch topics a tiny bit, but still stay within the nerdly arts. So let's talk about gaming for a second here.
Okay.
So when you're GMing, how important is it to actually be funny as a GM or to try to work humor into your games when people are game mastering? Is that an important thing to do? I guess it depends on the tone of the game, of course, but
for sure.
Is that something that you try to do when you've game mastered?
Okay. It's odd for that one. I both play and game master. So when I host, I more like set up whereby the players have the opportunity to joke, right?
Right.
So I set up a situation whereby they will see the humor in it, but I'll be the straight person, doing this terrible thing, right? But as a player, they've got a comedian right on hand. I joke all the time, right?
Right.
But now sometimes I take it out of the genre, though, of course, or mixed genres. For instance, I threw off the Game Master entirely once because we were dealing with this girl, and her name was Vista, and I was like, she walks all jittery, right? And she, she ended up being our servant. And I was like, oh, it's going to take her forever to get things to us, right? And and then she goes, I'll seat you over here in the big hall right over here by the windows. And I was like, oh no, Windows and Vista, they don't mix, right? And so we kept going, and she just was like, suddenly we had a new servant with a different name, kind of thing.
Right.
And so,
that's funny.
But it was, and everyone was laughing, but it didn't come from the story, it didn't come from the genre, it came from like the players,
right.
So, and it's something stupid like if you ever fight in D&D a Sturge, don't fight one Sturge, fight three of them, because you're up against the three Sturges, right?
Oh.
So I mean, and right, and so exactly, there's like built-in stuff like that if you want to think of it like that, but you usually give something like that you'd give to them, and they'd make the joke,
Right.
Again, my idea of leading them by the hand to where they really don't want to go, but somebody eventually does, right?
Eventually, yeah. You keep leading them.
That's kind of weird though that you mentioned that, because when I think of like comedy and the nerdly arts, it does seem that like the sword and sorcery fantasy like stories kind of lend themselves more to comedy than say science fiction.
Right.
Because there's a lot of guys like Terry Pratchett or Piers Anthony that their stories are very comedy based, even if it's a dramatic story.
That's true.
Okay.
Nothing like.
Well, it's weird because I'm reading. This is an obscure writer. His name is Spider Robinson, and I'm reading about a bar where supernatural people walk in, and this normal bar deals with these supernatural occurrences.
Callahan, right?
And
Callahan's Crosstime Saloon.
Callahan's bar, exactly. And so, I find it very interesting because there's humor and everything in it, you know. Mind you, he writes like he's from the 50s kind of thing, saying these old sayings that I actually have to Google. What does that mean? What does that thing mean? But yeah, and but it's kind of cool in that he adds it's modern day plus supernatural, and it's and I'm enjoying them. I'm enjoying the Spider Robinson books for that respect. What else do I guess it's in book form. Jim Butcher. I've been reading Jim Butcher, and he adds, you know, he's a very flawed character, and he adds humor in his books. Right.
You're reading the Dresden Files, the Dresden Chronicles.
The Dresden Files, yes. And so, and I enjoy. Sorry, Dresden is the flawed character, and he, but he makes, you know, there's one part where he sneaks up on the villain, takes the, you know, Uber scroll or whatever it is, and looks at, you know, this incredibly powerful being and goes meep meep and runs, right? And so it's humor, and he makes fun of himself, and but at the same time, it's, you know, a very serious story that goes on, and it takes place in modern day.
So yeah, the Dresden Files are hugely popular, if in part because of Jim Butcher's use of humor in them as well.
I think so, yeah, and making everybody's human.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, that too.
Yeah, and it's done from first person, and so he made a book. I forget the name of it, but he made one of the books that has all the other, you know, little what takes place in between each book. And one is his brother, takes place from his brother's point of view, and so then Dresden is going on again, and his brother goes, "Oh God, here he goes on again about that thing. Yes, life's terrible," you know. And so it's and it's very humorous, you know, to get the other side of, you know, yes, your tortured existence. Yes, okay, yeah. So much responsibility, and so it's you know, it makes me laugh. And yeah, I can't wait for the next ones to come out for that exact reason. Because see, Dresden is somebody that I would want to have over for dinner. You know,
right?
You know,
I can totally see that.
All right. So we try it, and this might sound strange, even though we do. I'll bring it back to the other stuff. Even though we've done things like sketch comedy, and we only have just 7 minutes to make this character lovable or whatever. We do our best to try to make them exactly that. Somebody you would want to have over for dinner, or, you know, or somebody you'd never want over for dinner. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So. No, that makes sense.
That sounds like a good character quality test. Would you want this character over for dinner?
Yeah, exactly. So.
Well, but people adore Batman, but as has been said, you wouldn't want him over for dinner.
Exactly. Well, that's actually an amazing thing. Let's take DC, right? Everybody from DC, either villain or hero, you would not want them over for dinner. Like, no, I will never. You'll never have the Joker over for dinner. You know what I mean? You know,
well, obviously, yes.
Exactly, because you'll burn down your house or something. But
that would be a bad idea.
Exactly. But Marvel. Yeah, I could have the villain or I'd have them both over. You know, Loki. Yeah, come on over. Yeah. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, the Green Goblin would be great to have over for dinner.
I can see that. Yeah.
You still might end up dead by the end of the evening, but
yeah.
Although I think for DC, I would have Erwin Schwab over.
Oh, Erwin Schwab! I should know who that is. Who is
Ambush Bug?
Ambush Bug, right?
Yeah.
It depends if his dumb luck kicked in.
Yeah, that's true.
After he just had a stunt, you know. Otherwise, you know, piece of Skylab would fall at the house.
Right. You know, Ambush Bug's an interesting character in a way. I know you're fond of him, Don, but to me, and this is, I guess, where my tastes and yours are a little bit different. I find pure, we'll call it comedy superheroes like Ambush Bug and Deadpool and that, normally I actually don't find them that funny because they're so busy being wacky and cartoony that I don't find them, like, they're not superheroes anymore. Right. They're a parody of superheroes, but the thing is, superheroes are already pretty silly inherently, so you're making a parody of something that's already pretty silly. Right. So to me, it often goes too far. I mean, the Deadpool movie totally worked, and Deadpool can work. I agree. But Ambush Bug, I've never found he worked for me. He's one of those characters that just never works for me.
Here's the thing. Oh, go ahead.
Go after you.
See, with you doing that, you hold comics, and superheroes in high regard. And
right, yes.
And I enjoy Judge Dredd or Ambush Bug for the reasons of it makes fun of that. And
right, okay.
Because and like I said, I like the idea of if you can take down what people hold sacred, it's better. And so, and I find comedy does that. It tears down what people hold sacred. So, I mean, it's sad that at my comic book store, I do collect comics, but one day I arrived during the normal comic book rush, and the place was packed, and I just yelled out, "Hey, who would win, Superman or Darth Vader?" And so then, and oh, wow. And it just started this big ripple, and the guy at the counter looked at me and like shook his fist, and I smiled and walked out, and that was endlessly funny to me, you know. So
right.
But I found I did.
It is pretty
funny. Next time I went in, he didn't coincidentally get my comics in after that, so I decided to. So I was like, all right, good to know. Coincidentally, you know.
Coincidentally, of course,
Yeah, I can see that too, because remember, I didn't care for superheroes when I was younger. I was almost 30 when I started reading superhero comics. And I always liked Ambush Bug because his whole shtick is he knows he's in a comic book. And they used to do that to make fun of how comic books worked on a very cosmic level. And that was what I used to get a kick out of.
Okay. That makes sense.
Like the story they did where he runs into the alien that comes from a planet where comic books are high culture and their entire society's based on it. And they did a page and it's like, and they love superhero comics, and you see the superhero guy. And they love Westerns, and it's the same guy, but he's wearing a hat. And they love comedy, and it's the same guy, but he's got like Groucho nose on. They did that for a whole page. You're like, that's awesome.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. It reminds me of the old Normal Man, where everyone's a superhero, but he's the only human.
Yeah, that was
they all tried to save.
Yeah, and that was another good one too. I enjoyed the hell out of Normal Man as well. But
I can totally see
then
that.
The guy who did that went on to do Shadowhawk for Image, which was like the most Image comic ever. Which is
really?
Yeah, same guy, Dave Valentino.
I've never read it.
No.
Huh.
It's he doesn't have like a million pouches, but yeah, it's this like super dark, and he like breaks every villain's back and stuff, and it's like, didn't you just do the other with the guy and it was funny? But okay, whatever, I guess we all get bills to pay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
we all got bills to pay.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, I think we should probably start wrapping this on up. Because we're an hour and a half, so this is a good time. It's a good time to start wrapping things up. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. I'll just end it with this. Basically, what happened was that I could get recorded. I went and did comedy at Club 54, right? And Ben Guyett was the host of it, and he said, "Yeah, now I want you to come back and we'll film it." And I asked, "Okay, how much do I get paid to be on TV?" "Oh, you don't get paid." And I went, "Are you kidding? I thought for sure if you went on stage, and got filmed, and you make money by syndicating it, that I would get some money." Like, no, it's just exposure. And I started laughing. I was like, okay, well, but at that point I realized that I could be on TV. But so this is I guess what separates me from a writer, from a book, an author kind of thing. is that I didn't want to be recorded, and because I wouldn't get the same kick that I do from an audience that's
from doing it live,
doing it live. And so in that respect, I'm more like a musician, because one of the people I talk to, some bands come to where I work all the time, and they talk about that they hate recording, because recording is just it's very sterile. But in their heads, they imagine that there's an audience while they record their music, but they prefer the live shows, because of the energy that they get. And so that's what I tend to do, is I like doing stand-up and doing improvs and of course sketch comedies, because of the instant feedback that I get from. So
makes sense.
So and it's sad that I blame that for my obscurity. Why if anybody Googles my name, they're like, who the hell is this? Because I avoid being recorded. So I want to let you know that I'm doing this show. It's for you, and in a way I'm being recorded, but
you are.
I'm dealing with it. I'm dealing with it for you. So just want to let you know that this is.
Thank you.
Quite the rarity
I'm sure
of things.
The audience appreciates it.
Yeah,
I'm sure the audience. But is there actually some place where they could find you or your work online?
No.
Like, where would they go looking?
No, actually they wouldn't. I've purposely avoided. And oddly enough, if they ever do look up, there is a Kevin Doak who did a stand-up back in the early 80s or something like that. And he, oh my God, is he so terrible. So if you do find me, I'm not that guy.
Right.
Yeah. So there's another Kevin Doak, which is why I actually changed my name to just be Doak on stage.
Ah, okay.
So it's even this comedy troupe that I've been involved with for like 12 years. Just recently on this Valentine's Day, my wife came to the back door and went, "Hi, I'm here to see Kevin." And this actress I've been working with for 12 years went, "There's nobody named Kevin here." And my wife closed her eyes. I'm Doak's wife. And she goes, "Oh, come on in." So they had no idea that I had a first name, let alone that it was Kevin. So.
Well, hold on. Before we go then, is there a persona that goes along with Doak, like the comedian? is that actually a slightly different person than Kevin is?
Yes, for sure. In fact, I'll I'll do a show. I used to do a show at Yuck Yucks, and I used to be Doak on stage, and then I would show up at work and like go to my work right after, and I'd meet some people that went to the show. I was like, "Dude, but I'm not that person now. I'm a different persona. Right. I have a uniform on, so I am now telling you what to do, So that was the funny person. Now this is a different mask I'm wearing, So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. That person made you laugh. This person will break your arm.
That's right.
So just keep in line. Okay, got it.
Exactly.
Okay, so Don, any final thoughts?
I don't know. I think we covered most of it. I think, especially for the nerdly arts, we're kind of at a crux where comedy's kind of underappreciated.
I think it is.
Yeah, because since the 90s, when writing a character was angry, and that was like everybody. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that came up here, especially looking at Marvel winning with their movies, and perhaps a little bit of why that is.
Yeah. I can totally see that, and there's no doubt that the advanced stuff for the new Justice League movie, the follow-up to Batman v Superman, is definitely leaning heavy on the Marvel-style comedy. So, DC has kind of gotten the message that, maybe we better lighten this up a little bit. They're kind of going out of their way to show it in the early previews. We'll see how it works out.
But I'm still
all right,
Batman.
then. So, you're still Batman? Okay.
I'm still Batman.
Yeah. You just love Batman. Okay. Well, that's the thing, right? It's hard to tell whether they're going to play Batman as the straight man and everyone else as the funny guys, or whether they're actually going to let Batman be a little more funny. Based on what I've seen, I think they're actually going to let him be a little bit funny, but we'll see. All right. So on that note, thank you very much, Kevin Doak, for dropping by and talking about comedy with us and for sharing some of your stories with us that we really appreciate. It's great to hear about some of your experiences and some of the people you've met.
Yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please tune in next time when we'll be talking about small and independent role-playing games. Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be a good chat, and I'm sure there'll be lots of yucks to go along with that as well. Take care, everyone.
It was
Good night.
fun. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like to hear more or join the conversation, come visit us at obeythedna.com. You can also find us on iTunes or whatever fine podcast site forgot to lock their back door. So until next time, remember that to master the nerdly arts takes time, practice, and enough Coca-Cola to drop a rhino. See ya! Come on over and join the conversation at obeythedna.com, where you will find show notes and more.